Everybody, and welcome to, as I say, a rather clean, fresh Djuma. We had a beautiful storm in the early hours of this morning, and it smells wonderful. It seems that everybody is invigorated, including the impalas that are slowly coming running past. There's a male busy chasing a female. Now, of course, this is normally behavior for the rutting season, but, well, I suppose after a bit of rain, everyone's feeling a little bit more on the feisty side. Now, my name is Tristan, and on camera today, I have got VM the Wildebeest, and we are coming to you live from South Africa, which means #Safari Live, or YouTube if you want to get hold of us and ask any questions. And this morning, hopefully, we're going to have a good morning. It's obviously been washed clean by the rain. We didn't have as much rain as I first thought. It sounded like a lot when I was in my room, and it was kind of falling down on these sheet metal roofs, and it really sounded like it was a lot of rain, but it actually doesn't seem to be too much. Now that I'm out here, the roads haven't been washed that badly. There's still some evidence of tracks, but what is going to be nice is if there are tracks on top of where it's rained, well, we know they're going to be very fresh. So the plan is this morning is we're just going to bumble around and see what we can find. I'm hoping that the Angama Pride has maybe made a return to Djuma. I believe that Hosana was down at Chitwa, and, well, anything else that is around, we'll certainly take it. So it's going to be an interesting morning nonetheless, and it'll be just nice to explore fresh Djuma after a little bit of rain has washed some of the dust that has been developing once again over the last few days. Now, despite all of that, and if all of that doesn't work, at least we have a beautiful, beautiful sky to gaze upon. As you saw just now, there's a few little clouds around, the sun is rising through that cloud bank layer, and it is all very pretty. It also feels a lot better. I don't know why. It feels as though there's stuff happening this morning. It's maybe because of the bit of rain that we've had. And what I want to do is, before we go anywhere actually, is I just want to check Gowrie Dam just to see if it filled up a little bit more. Like I say, it wasn't as much rain as I expected. There's no puddles or any sort of signs of water on the road itself, but that doesn't mean that it didn't collect nicely around Gowrie Dam area. And so since we're right here, we might as well go and have a little look and just see what Gowrie Dam looks like and whether or not there's been an increase in the amount of water that is being held by the dam itself. There's certainly no sign of any animals walking around here other than the odd antelope species. Romit, you're wondering how humid Djuma can get. Well, the answer to that is very humid. It's not maybe as humid as some other parts of the world, but when it does rain in the summer months and it gets then very hot after that, it becomes very, very humid indeed. And you can sometimes get humidity of 80-90% out here. That coupled with heat of 45 degrees or, close to 120 Fahrenheit, it becomes quite hot quite quickly and uncomfortable, that's for sure. So we haven't quite hit those humid streaks just yet because of the lack of rain over the last few years, and so it's still a situation where it's at least fairly dry heat, but the humidity will come if we get a good rainstorm. Now, Gowrie Dam itself has not increased in any way whatsoever. It's still pretty much the same. There might be a little bit of filling on that right hand side, sort of down towards the dam wall side. You can see there's a bit of mud there and the likes, but it really hasn't filled too much. So as much as it sounded like a lot of rain, it actually just seems to be more that it was the roofs making a lot of noise than anything else. Also, not really much happening at Gowrie Dam. I thought that we'd maybe see some birds lining the shoreline. Often after a storm like we had last night, it's good to look for birds around water points. Sometimes you'll find birds get blown off course a little bit, particularly now at this time of the year when we've got a lot of migratory birds coming in and out. It's always a good time after a storm to look for rare birds that don't generally occur here, because they sometimes get blown completely off course, particularly the ones that are supposed to spend time in Natal, which is the sort of eastern side of South Africa, and Mozambique. They sometimes get a little bit kind of blown off by these weather systems that move in off the Mozambique channel, and they come in the side. So always really good to just look around and pay attention and listen for calls that you don't recognize. Sometimes you can get super lucky and you get signs of birds that theoretically shouldn't actually occur here. So always a good time to look, and that's why going down to waterholes, even though it did rain and the animals might not be heading to them, is always good for us, because we might pick up something interesting and different. TSN, you're wondering if there's any more sign of the wild dogs from last night. Well, this is the first I'm hearing about the wild dogs of last night. I obviously wasn't on drive last night, so I didn't know about them, but I'll try and find out. I heard Tax getting mobile right now, so I'll try to give him a shout just now when we're off air and just find out what's happened with them and which way they went. Now, there are tracks here, but these are for what looks like hyena tracks. Now you can see what I'm talking about, how difficult it can become after rain. I'm going to just go back here and we'll try and show you these tracks, what they look like after a rainstorm has happened. And it's actually quite nice if we use the tire track as an example. So just on the right of the tire track is those hyena tracks. They are barely visible. You can see almost, it looks as though dots of rain and little dots are put all over the top of that track. So with the rain, it's covered it, it's washed the edges clean. But if you look at the tire track, that's what a fresh track would look like. You see how everything is compressed nicely. There's nice solid, really defined edges, and so that's what we're going to be looking for. We're going to be looking for more tracks like the tire track than that. That's a hyena before the rain and the tire track after the rain. So hopefully we can pick up some tracks that look more like our tire tracks and less like those hyena tracks, because that's not going to be very pleasant if only those tracks are around. Now the reason why I know it's hyena is just from the shape of the track itself. Also, when I'm right directly on top of it, I can see the banana shaped toes and the pads angling, well, the foot angling out, and so walking almost duck footed as opposed to walking straight footed like the cats would. And there's also a presence of little claws there. Even though it has rained, you can still see the little flicks of clawing at the front of the toes. But I'm really curious as to what's going on with hyenas. There seems to be some random ones moving around and kind of walking up and down in this area lately, and so I wonder if there's not maybe another den somewhere. As soon as our Gari repeater is fixed this coming week, which is, next week, we hopefully will be seeing the Gari repeater, a new one actually going up, and it should help us with signal. I want to go and check around Zoe's and just check that den site there and see if maybe potentially there's some hyenas hanging around there. I still have a sneaky suspicion they might be south of our boundary, but there's so much movement of hyenas around the Treehouse Dam area and around sort of twin dams that I wonder if maybe there isn't just another den that we're missing at this stage. It would be really nice to find another den, particularly for the high-ranking individuals. The den we've got at the moment is all the lower-ranking females, and so it would be nice to find those high-ranking individuals and just find out where they've been hanging about and whether or not there's any new young ones that they've got, or any signs of a new generation from them. But it smells so good this morning. It smells like it's fresh and clean. I know here in Africa we get this certain smell of the soil and the vegetation once it rains, and everything kind of just smells that much better, and you get this clean soil, earthy smell that comes through after a rainy time. It really is a wonderful kind of way to start your day, and when you're driving around and you can just kind of pick up all these different scents of aromatic vegetation. The other day I was driving somewhere around quarantine actually, and I smelt the first wild basil of the summer, which is really quite nice. So hopefully more of it will grow. It generally pops up all over the show. By sort of the first 3-4 weeks of summer we start to see it if we get some good rain. So a rainstorm like this will just help for those herbaceous plants that are very aromatic to start coming up and growing, and hopefully we'll get some sign of them. Right, now our sunset has been a bit obscured by a few spots of cloud, and it's a bit overcast this morning, but where it isn't overcast is the Masai Mara in East Africa, and Scotty Dyson is there to say hello.
Good morning everyone, and welcome to the Masai Mara. It is a beautiful morning, and my name is Scott. I'm teamed up with Seb on camera, and we've also got Martin on board. He's one of our new tech wizards. There he is, and he's another local Kenyan who's joined our Masai Mara team, and it's wonderful getting to know some local Kenyans along the way, and also wonderful to be able to take some of the team out on drive who typically don't get to spend as much time out on safari as the cameramen and the presenters do. And there is a reason why we have them on board. It's not just a joyride. We have got some batteries on board that we need to go and replace. They've got something to do with internet somewhere, so that is what we are going to do. And along the way there, so we've got about half an hour to get to the place where we need to change out the batteries. Along the way there, of course, we'll be moving as quickly as we can, because I'm told those batteries are about to die fairly soon. So we don't want that impact on the drive, so I'll be hustling along. Of course, if we find anything very interesting, we will stop. and show it to you, but we run the risk of finding something interesting and not being able to show it to you if we don't fix the battery system. So I know you've been discussing the weather that Djuma had last night. It sounds like they had a much needed storm and the rain that comes with it. And still on the topic of weather, Heather would like to know if we ever get tornadoes in this area. And no, there's very few parts of southern Africa or anywhere really in Africa that I know of that really gets many cyclones, tornadoes, hurricanes, whatever you'd like to call them. I guess the closest thing that we get in this area are dust devils. So I guess they're kind of mini tornadoes, spirals that you see of dust high into the sky. And the only major winds that can cause problems with us are just kind of strong winds associated with big storms that come in. But we are fortunate in that natural disasters, be it earthquakes, tsunamis, or any of those vortexes of wind, hurricanes, tornadoes, or cyclones, do not really impact us too badly in Africa, as far as my little brain tells me. There are the odd little earth tremor or strong wind, but nothing too serious. So you'll also be glad to know that it's not just myself out in the mire this morning, like poor old Tristan on his own down at Djuma. We've got another 2 vehicles out. We've got Brent and Jamie. They're on the opposite side of the river to us. And I'm guessing they're going to be focusing on trying to find cheetah, because there are good cheetah numbers there, and they've had some great success over the last few days. So let's hope they get lucky. For now, though, we're going to leave them to continue searching and send you guys back down to Tristan with some birds.
We do have some birds. So there was a red-billed quelea that quickly flew off. There is also some beautiful orange-breasted bushshrikes around. There you go. You can see, look at that bright orange breast against that yellow backdrop. It is a beautiful bird. And there's 2 of them that are here, and they've been singing to one another, and they have this beautiful call where they basically say, coffee, tea, or me. And that's the sort of call that they have early in the morning, and they contact one another. And it's a really, really nice to see them. They're generally a shy, reclusive bird that we struggle to get on camera, but these 2 are being very cooperative, sitting right out in the open, and they're adding a splash of color to our sort of dreary morning. But as that sun will come out, these guys will look even better. You can imagine when there's a bit of morning sunshine on them, how beautiful those colors are. Now you can see the bird is puffed up quite a bit. They're generally a lot sleeker than that. The reason why it's puffed up so much is probably because those feathers are quite damp, and it's just trying to kind of warm itself up and dry itself out. But really nice to see those little guys. They're not easy to generally find and out in the open. So what a wonderful particular individual. And it seems as though there's a lot more chirp and noise in the morning air. It's been these orange-breasted bushshrikes, which is how we kind of
Well, surprise, surprise, you've just hopped immediately back onto my vehicle with very short notice. Apologies. I hope you did get some good views of those beautiful orange-breasted bushshrikes. Tristan and whoever he's teamed up today on camera with did well to get you a glimpse of that special bird, because they're usually quite secretive. So I'm happy that you did get a glimpse, and sorry that you had to be rushed back towards us. There is a very, very pretty bird. I just want to try and get the blue sky behind it. There we go. Morning. That is a black-shouldered kite, beautiful bright red eyes. And they're small predatory birds that have got a wonderful skill of being able to hover above their prey before they descend upon it. It seems like this guy's just enjoying the morning sunshine before it starts looking for insects mainly, and small rodents, although you can see its head has just pricked up, twitching from side to side. It may have spotted a small movement in the grass. Another very interesting thing that's happening with the birds, you can hear in the distance, and I want to get us a little bit closer to one of the most wonderful calls in the African summer, be it down in Djuma or here in the Mara. It's the same bird. The ones we get here, though, don't migrate. They remain local, but the ones that will be arriving in Djuma shortly, I don't think any have, migrate from further north of South Africa. And Seb and I heard this bird calling chip the first time yesterday morning in the same area. And once we stop here, we are going to be able to definitely get you some good audio of this woodlands kingfisher. They are very, very pretty birds. Let's wait for their call one more time. I'm just going to have a look at my binoculars to see if I can actually see it. That would be useful. Oh, I can, Seb.
Yes?
It's at the top of the dead branches that's holding its...
Oh, okay. I think I've got it. Oh, did it just fly?
It just flew. But it might pop back up there. That's the direction it's coming in. You can see those dead branches in the center of your frame.
What is that there?
Oh, no, that's... is that green pigeon?
Yeah.
It could be a green pigeon. They've also got wonderful calls. The woodlands kingfisher flew down below, just to the right. It was on that other bunch of dead branches there, but it did fly down a bit lower. And if you look, wings up, displaying the beautiful electric turquoise coloration. It's also decided to go quiet now. Come on, give us another call. So what will be interesting is when they arrive down south in Djuma, and what will also be interesting is when the European storks, which we saw here for the first time yesterday, also arrived down south in South Africa. They've got a much longer journey to get to Djuma than the woodlands kingfishers do. The woodlands kingfishers, I'm told, usually come from kind of Zimbabwe and a little bit further north of South Africa, whereas the European storks come all the way from Europe. Wonderful. Well, you'll be glad to know, like I said, Jamie and Brent are also out, and Jamie would like to give you a quick update as to how her morning is unfolding thus far.
My morning is so far unfolding beautifully. The sun is shining, it's a little bit chilly, but it's warming up, and I've got all sorts of exciting plans. A very good morning to all of you. My name is Jamie, and this morning Jahawi is on camera with me. Who wants to go look for Imani? I'm just kidding, there's no option. We're going to go look for Imani because she's now a cheetah that has wormed her way. There's not someone coming up behind me. Has wormed her way into my heart, and I want to go and find her again. I'm hoping with a full belly last night, she hasn't moved too far away. We're going to go and catch up and see what she does with her morning, because we're going to be, in theory, depending on what happens, and depending on what the weather does, of course, we're going to be out all day today, spending time with her, following her around, getting to know her a little bit better. And that's certainly something that I'm excited about. So that's what we've got planned for the morning. And just by the way, just to clarify something, we didn't get stuck yesterday. We nearly got stuck. The distinction is subtle, but it's there. We definitely didn't get stuck. It took us 5 minutes to maneuver ourselves out of the situation. That doesn't count as getting stuck. Definitely not. I hear from Taylor that they've been spreading rumors about me. If I got stuck, I would have told you. You know that. Don't forget, I don't like this road, I need to get over there. Don't forget to send through your questions on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. I actually sort of thought I'd fixed that rattle, but I hadn't. didn't get that mix. I'm sorry. I thought I heard something about species of uncles, which I don't think is correct. Try again. Okay, I got a part of that. So Umkar's wondering about invasive species. This is really very rattly on here, and I'm sure it's very noisy for all of you. Umkar's wondering about invasive species, I believe, and whether there's any in the Mara. In terms of invasive plant species, yes, there are invasive plant species. Not as many down in the sort of on the plains of the Mara as there are further up into the escarpment, but there's species of lantana. Excuse me. Lots of blackjacks. And then in terms of invasive species in the Mara, in terms of animals, no, not really. Unless there are of course domestic animals that move around into this area, but could we call them invasive? Probably not. People have been grazing their cattle for a very, very long time, and although it is no longer allowed in certain parts of the Mara, I don't think I'd go so far as to say that they're an invasive species. No, it's not yet. Having said I've mastered these valleys, I'm now checking myself. It's a bit further on. I don't feel like trying to escape through the cattle path. I'm going to sneak up here. It's a little bit less bumpy. There we go. It's amazing how bright it is now that the sun's out properly for the first time in a little while. Alright, I'm going to bumble about in the direction of Imani. It's probably going to take me about an hour to get there, so I'm going to keep my foot on the accelerator. While I do that, let's go across to Tristan, whose foot is probably slightly lighter on the accelerator.
No, I'm not going very fast at all. In fact, I'm staying. Why is because over here, coming up the road, is some leopard tracks. Now, they're not great leopard tracks. You can just see the toes in that general section there facing towards me and the little back foot. Now, it is for a female leopard. I would imagine it could be Shadow or maybe Tandy where we are. I'm not 100% sure, but it's not fresh. They are from last night, but prior to the rain, so it was before the rain fell, and I'll have to try and just check around and see where they go. They go northwards and away from where we're going, but what I want to do is just quickly check Treehouse Dam in case they came back that way. I didn't see anything on Philemon's cut line, and if they didn't go the way that we came from, well, then we're not going to have reception going the other way, and so it's not going to help at all. Now, I do apologize if every now and then you see a spot of rain on the lens. The reason for that is that it is starting to just drizzle a little bit. It's weird because and clearer above our heads, but there seems to be still one or two little spots of rain. And it is quite a dramatic sky this morning. Now, I apologize about the feed. I don't know what's going on. So maybe the bit of weather is causing little havoc with Vuatela Mast. So we have to stay stationary for now because otherwise we're going to lose you guys again. Now, I think what I'm going to do is just maybe while I'm sitting here being stationary is try and listen out for anything. So far there's been, like I said, a lot of bird calls. I had a little greater honey guide that was calling just now, and so hopefully we'll hear some other cool birds and try and do a bit of birding from where we are. It's not in the best spot at the moment, and we're kind of in the middle of really nowhere, and it's right up on a crest, which is not the greatest place for birds. But while I endeavour to try find signal and birds and all kinds of other things, I believe Scott is still racing around, and so let's go across.
Hello, welcome back. We are still steadily making our way towards the battery swap over point. We're about 15 minutes away, I guess. But there are some waterbuck and an impala that are all looking very intently in one direction here, so maybe they can smell a cat. Let's have a stop here. Just want to get into a good spot behind them so we can look over their shoulders in exactly the same direction they're looking in. And it may be nothing, it may be a false alarm. They've definitely stopped looking with as much intent. But that's not to say there is not a predator sneaking up on them that they are not fully aware of. So let's give it a moment. As you can see, there's lots of very good cover for a predator to sneak up on these waterbuck. There's also a lone impala there. You can see the impala was very focused in that area. I'm not sure if you guys can hear the frogs. It's absolutely incredible. They're making a racket. Looking for lovers while we look for lions. Come on, poke your head out, whatever you are that's causing these antelope to be a little bit nervous. At any point, a lion, or maybe even a leopard, could explode out of this long grass. Wouldn't that be a very pleasant surprise for us? Obviously not for the waterbuck and the impala. So now we have the conundrum in that, is it a false alarm? And just like humans, animals also make mistakes with regards to calculating possible threats. And I think, considering their behavior now, maybe that is what happened. Let me just have one more scan with my binoculars to see if I can't see any ears poking up over the grass. No joy, sadly. Well done, Seb. Seb's just found a yellow-billed stork. It's just actually flown in to start its morning forage. I think frogs are going to be high up on its menu, and I'm guessing that's the main animal that they are going to find in these swamps. There's not going to be any fish in them to feed on. So mainly amphibians that they will be snacking upon. Looks like for now, though, it's just relaxing. Not ready for breakfast just yet. Alrighty then. Actually, just let's hold on a second here. Because there's now a topi heading in the same direction where these impala were, or the impala and waterbuck were looking earlier. And if it moves through this area without being attacked by anything, it will confirm that there is in fact nothing there. But it's quite useful that it is heading through that area to help us establish whether or not these waterbuck are dreaming, or whether in fact they have sensed a predator. They could have just got a slight whiff of the scent of a big cat. They may have seen something funny. Oh, here goes the topi running straight into the possible danger zone. Is something going to jump out and pounce onto it? It too is moving cautiously through this thick bush, or long grass rather. It's not really thick bush, it's on the fringe of some thick bush. Well, the fact that it has made it to where it has now without anything launching an attack makes me confident that there is in fact nothing there. Thank you, Topi. Very kind of you to sacrifice, or possibly sacrifice yourself, in order for us to get to the bottom of this myth. All right. Well, that was exciting. Some possible action that could have unfolded there. And let's head you now back to Jamie, who is just casually perusing the wilderness for any signs of life.
Not that casually. There's plenty of life around, but for now I'm not stopping for any of it. So there's lots of little Tommies, there's lots of wildebeest, there's lots of Topis, but I am, as I said, foot to the floor for this morning until we get and find Imani, because if we don't, she's going to go wandering off and it's going to be very, very difficult to find her. So I'm going to try and get to the area where we had her the last time. I've got this funny feeling I'm going to wind up in trouble. Not too bad. Doesn't look too bad, does it? I'm so happy to see the sun. You have no idea. The sun is going to shine. It's going to dry up all the mud. It's going to be that much easier to get from point A to point B and to point C. It also means an exceptionally high level of concentration while you're driving. You know, you go into automatic pilot mode when you're driving around normally, but it doesn't work that well when it's muddy, as I discovered last night when everything just sunk under me. It looked fine. There's a couple of different options when you get stuck in the mud. It depends how badly you're stuck in the mud. Yes, you can call for help. Most of us will resist doing that until we absolutely have no other choice at all, because it just makes everything worse. So the first option, if you're not too badly stuck, is to get out and push. Well, I say get out and push. I say in the driver's seat, and Jahawi would have to get out and push. But it just gives that little bit of extra momentum to help you get traction. And that's in a situation where you're not too badly off and there's a place where you're clearly going to be fine if you're at that point where you just need that little millimeter or two. The next option is to dig and make a sort of a slightly easier path for your wheels, usually combined with either jacking up the car, which is a mission, especially in mud because the jack just sinks, so you need something flat like a shovel, or you start to cut branches and sticks or rocks if you can find them. So they're not always that easily available, and you put those under your wheels to help to increase traction. Or we could get those traction, I don't know what you could actually call them, those traction wraps for tires. I really want some of those. And then, yeah, final resort is you call somebody and they pull you out. And what occasionally happens if you're in a really bad spot is they get stuck too. And then you call someone else and they get stuck too, and then you have... Yesterday, we saw this convoy of people who clearly, I don't know, Jahawi and I had a discussion. I thought they'd maybe hired the cars they were in. Jahawi thought maybe they'd come down from maybe Nairobi or somewhere around there, but it was, okay, that is a bear-like hyena. That is a truly massive hyena. Stop and have a quick look. But it was hilarious because they clearly had an order that they had to drive in, and they weren't going to break that order for anything, even a cheetah. They all had to go in the correct order, with the white car first, and then the red car, and then it was hilarious. But they got very badly stuck yesterday, and we think 2 of them got stuck. Hyenas sloping off after a night of mischief and mayhem. What have you two been up to? No good, I'm sure. That, to me, looks like the female, just judging by size. Quite a big hyena for this area. And the little chap behind. Could be a male or could be a young female. It's hard to tell. It's a young hyena. Just goes to show this light can be flattering for anything, even hyenas. Hey, you two. What you doing? They always just look like they're full of mischief, don't they? Let's go a little bit further ahead. The last option, the final option, is to get a tractor out. And if that's not possible, you might have to abandon. There's certain circumstances where you actually have to abandon your vehicle. Quick, over to Scott.
Well, take a look at this. There's a serious fight going on between these grey-crowned cranes. One was completely pinned down earlier, and now we're having the joy of seeing them fly. How cool is this? Now, I'm not sure which two are ganging up on who exactly, but we're getting some incredible views. Well done, Seb. As it continues to fly straight towards us, we couldn't ask for better views of these birds. They're incredibly beautiful. And as you can tell, I'm very, very excited. Look at this. Now, what I'm interested to see is what happens as and when they land. Because, like I said, we just saw a tangle of feathers and wings. One was standing on top of another one, had it completely pinned down. You may have a bit of a photo bomb here. Anyway, we had enjoyed the majority of that. And, morning everyone. How are you doing? We're live at the moment, so I can chat to you a little bit later. It's absolutely fine. So like I said, those birds are having a big fight. These guys have just reversed to start chatting with us. And of course, a lot of people don't realize what exactly we are doing and simply don't know whether we are live or not, as and when they start chatting with us. So seeing as though everyone's headed off, let me just chat with these guys. Well, no, it seems like they're not interested in chatting to us anymore. Not too sure what they were wanting to ask, but anyway, I sadly couldn't be very accommodating to them. That was really cool. I'm guessing, it could have been two males fighting over a female, but that even doesn't really add up completely because I'm fairly confident that they are monogamous. So what they were fighting over, maybe a nesting site. Let's have a look, Seb. I've actually just seen them land on the tall tree at about 9:30. The tallest tree, below the sun, right below the sun there. The tallest tree below the sun is the one. There's one that's landed there. We've got the one below the sun. Right below the sun to the right, So there's one, So it seems like the other two continued their squabbling. They flew down from that tree. There's one just perched up there, but strange business. No, a fish eagle's calling. How beautiful is this? Oh, the birds are definitely providing us some wonderful views and audio. Hi Gina, you'd like to know if I know the wingspan of these birds. I don't know exactly. While I open my book to find out, I'm going to hazard a guess. And I would say at around 180 centimeters to 2 meters. So let's find the old cranes in the book. Where are the cranes? Okay, I haven't been using my bird book very much since I've been here, so I'm a bit slow, forgive me. Bit untrained. So Seb is kindly going to take you on a little tour of what's happening around us. There's one of the hot air balloons from Governor's Balloon Safaris, who are the same balloons that we go up in every now and then. Sadly, in my book, it doesn't have the wingspan of them. But like I say, I'd guess 180 centimeters to 2 meters. If anybody would like to double check that for me, I'd be greatly thankful. Birds with massive wingspans like the Marshall eagle have got a wingspan of up to 2.5 meters. So I've just kind of worked backwards from there. Lady Starfire, I'm glad you enjoyed Seb's handy camera work as those birds flew straight past us. It was a magical scene. What happened was, we were driving along and Seb said, "Are those things fighting?" And I said, "No, it's just a male chasing a female." Because I had seen a Thompson's gazelle running after a female Thompson's gazelle. I hadn't seen the birds. And then I looked across and realized what he was talking about. And they were really, such beautiful, peaceful looking birds. You wouldn't expect to get into a full-blown fight like that. But again, I guess rather that you should not judge a book by its cover. The ferocious grey-crowned crane is not as friendly as it may appear to the eye. So my final kind of thought on what was happening there is that they were probably fighting over a nesting site, something like that. Janet, you would like to know what my favorite bird is, and it varies. There's different genres of birds. There's beautiful birds. There's impressive predatory birds that I would love to be able to follow hunting. But as a general rule, regardless of my mood, I would say the crowned eagle is one of my favorites. They are both very pretty, not seen very often, and hardcore predators. They take out vervet monkeys, small antelope. They're very big birds with a deep wing as opposed to a long wingspan, which is well suited for the forest environments where they like to live. I've seen a couple flying around our camp on top of the Olololo escarpments. I guess there could be a few living in the forest that runs along the side of the Mara River, but we haven't seen any down here yet, just up on the ridge where our camp is. I'm not convinced we've ever actually been able to show you guys crowned eagles, be it here or at Djuma. At Djuma they're very infrequently seen. Good, well now that you know my favorite bird is a crowned eagle, why don't you go and hear what Jamie Patterson's favorite bird is. And I wonder what's happened to Brent this morning. Maybe you can ask her if she knows.
My favorite bird is it's hard to tell. I have a top 5-ish, but probably my favorite bird is a rose eagle or a black eagle. I really love them, and I think it stems to the fascination with my grandfather's stories from when he discovered a nest in a place that is now the Botanical Gardens of Johannesburg. Hey, you get to come with me on a river crossing, I hope the signal works. Oh, everything's so nice and not so low. Not so high.
Welcome back. It seems like we're very popular this morning, albeit due to technical difficulties. We'll take what we can get. Well done, Seb. The highlights of this morning's safari, like I say, through tech defaults and nothing else. So let's hope Jamie does manage to find both the cheetah and some better signal. It's always a bit of a conundrum when we find good content in a bad signal area, because naturally we don't want to leave it, but of course we need to, otherwise we can't share what happens with you. So the area we're going through now is an area where we could be lucky enough to see the almighty Scarface, a big old male lion who is quite a sight to behold, and I'm quite sad in that I haven't had much luck spending time with him. I think I've seen him twice during the day and he was sleeping, so I didn't really get to see his beauty. And one night we had a cool sighting on the other side of the river with the infrared camera. When he was on the move, roaring a little bit. He had lots of his little cubs running around and some of his girlfriends. But it's something that I would like to try and remedy. Some of the other presenters have had some great luck with him, but me, not yet. So maybe this morning that will change. So we've got about another 10 minutes, I think I said that 5 minutes ago, to get to Serena, where we are heading to change some batteries. Now, as you can see, there's not many migrating herds in and around us, even though a few weeks ago this area was teeming with game. And Linda, you would like to know, why is it, or how is it that animals know how to migrate and when to? That is a good question that I don't have the answer to. And another question that I will ask you is that you won't have the answer is, how do some animals, wildebeest and zebra and Thompson's gazelle, the three main migrating animals that occur in this area, how do some of them decide to stay as residents? Are they born residents in Kenya and stay residents, or are they semi-retired when they become a resident and wherever they decide to reside? Because it's not all the wildebeest, zebra and Thompson's gazelle that leave this area. And I just don't think there's been enough research done on it to be able to know categorically what these animals do and exactly how. And I've been actually quite surprised at the seemingly quite low information on the migrating herds. Let's see what this man has to say to us. Good morning, Jambo Sana, habari ya safari. Good. Hakuna simbas bwana? Ndeges tu? Naswara. Pole. Have a good safari. He was hoping we had some good information for him, but we don't. I just told him all we've seen is birds and antelopes. And he was hoping for the Simba. All of you know what a Simba is, of course. A lion. From the Lion King. And the fact that he's just come from where we are going doesn't bode incredibly well for us. Seconds after he had driven along this road, a lion or a leopard or who knows what may have poked its head up and walked into an area where they could be visible. So we mustn't lose hope. We must remain positive, and hopefully something cool will present itself to us. Having said that though, like the question about what is my favorite birds, there's so many different genres that you can be searching for on safari. Different things, scenes of beauty, scenes of high intensity. Or scenes of general update as to what is happening with migrating animals. Like I said, the wildebeest have started moving away from this area, but the animal we're about to take a look at here has just arrived. All the way from Europe. I spoke about them earlier. This is a European stork. And we saw, at least I saw my first individuals yesterday, 4 of them. I'm not sure if Brent or Jamie or Taylor have seen any yet, but these could be the highly athletic ones that have arrived before the others. And isn't it fascinating to think that the same very bird could end up flying all the way from here to Djuma, where you could view it there. Of course, we would need to spray paint it pink or something of the sort to be able to easily identify it, which we will not be doing. But it's a wonderful thought to think that this bird can move such a massive, massive distance, and the fact that it's already made it halfway across the African continent to just south of the equator, all the way from Germany or the surrounding countries where they do their nesting in the European summer, but then come back here for the bounty of the African summer, where there is lots of food, which you can see it's busy looking for now. Wouldn't that be nice to live an endless summer like the European stork? And again, you know, with the question of how animals migrate and how do they know when to or how far to, not all the European storks will go as far as South Africa. Maybe some of them will make it halfway and, you know, be content with Kenya. Ah, we have a large mass of hippopotamus trying to hide behind the grass. They obviously feel a little bit embarrassed when the morning sun is out with their chunky body. Only kidding. That's definitely not the case. Marvelous. Okay, good. Well, Jamie has found one of the things that is important when on safari with us, and that is signal. So why don't you go and see what it's like over on her vehicle.
It is pretty crucial, actually, that whole signal thing. I had hoped that we'd have signal through that crossing, but unfortunately, no such luck. But it's okay, we found signal once again. The nice thing about where Imani was yesterday is that it is a really good signal area, and I'm fingers crossed she's still going to be around there today. What is that? That is a Tommy. Surprisingly difficult to spot cheetahs occasionally, especially if they're flat, because they lie so flat. And they're quite slender creatures when you compare them to something like a lion. I don't think she's going to be here though. I think we've still got a way to go. I'm really hoping she's still somewhere in the area. She should be. She should be. She had a good meal. There's lots around her. Ah! That is wonderful news. You have, of course, met Tristan, Scott, and myself this morning. There is one person absent from that list, and that is Mr. Leo Smith, all the way down south towards Salas.
Welcome, and it is a beautiful morning. Apologies again for our tardy start, but unfortunately we do sometimes have some technical difficulties. My name is Brent Leo Smith, and I've got Craig, aka the Batman, on camera, and we're going in search of the gorgeous Malaika and her two boys, as well as that mystery male cheetah who's been popping up and around. I didn't manage to find him last night, but I'm hoping we are able to find him today. Habari asubuhi. Ya chini? Bado. Jana, I left Malaika 1, 2, 3 valleys across. I'm going to go around and see if I can find her. Bado kidogo, yeah. Bado. Oh, perfect. Well, we'll go see if we can see them. Okay, well, good luck, guys. Okay, so we're carrying on. Let's see what else we can find. So there are 2 lionesses, and as I said, we might stop and have a look. I think it's part of the Silas Breakaway Pride, but our focus for our days across here has definitely been cheetah. I am really enjoying the amount of time we are spending with cheetah at the moment, and Malaika has been with her, or double her weight in gold, I would say. We've been sticking with her for like 7, 8, 9 hours a day, and she's provided us with 2 fantastic hunts. And that first one was particularly interesting, because you got to see the way she let the young boys handle. Why are you running, Orobi? With my binoculars, I just saw two Orobi dancing over the crest towards us. And I'm just trying to listen to see if they're alarming. Actually, that's worth having a quick investigation where they're looking. Or was the one just looking? They might have been jumping for joy of the morn. Yeah, I don't see anything to scare them. Oh, we've got a funny noise back there, Craig. Can you see what it is? Not sure. I will figure it out just now. Okay, we need to go through a steep lugger and through a valley. So we might have a bit of breakup as we go through there. It was quite chilly when we got up this morning, and it is warming up quite nicely. Let's have a quick perusal of this valley. There's a big herd of buffalo down there. Some zebras. No kitty cats just yet. Okay. So I do apologize if you lose us as we go down this hill. A beautiful morning. Hopefully lots of animals about.
Well, I'm just worried. Yeah, it looks like that, but
might have to go back where we were at first then.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Good to have you back. There are some topi thinking about possibly crossing the Mara River here, and I am hoping that I can get into a good spot. Again, apologies for the hasty delivery from wherever you were onto my vehicle, but it seems like we are having some technical issues today. It all worked out quite well though, because I think we are sitting quite pretty here with a good possibility of seeing a crossing. Now, I've never actually been able to share a live crossing with you, or a decent one at least. The river cameras have stolen our thunder there a little bit, but thankfully they're all broken, so it gives us an excuse at the moment to be here. There's usually a camera, or there is a camera position just below us on the same side as the river that we are on, which has provided us with some incredible views, low angles of these beasts having to run the gauntlet. Now, I definitely think these animals would like to cross. The question is, when are they going to decide to take the plunge? It's impossible to know. We just need one of them to make the first move, and the rest will come charging in afterwards. But at the moment, it appears that none of them seem quite brave enough. And it's quite normal for there to be this toing and froing, backwards, forwards. Should we, shouldn't we? Should we go here? Should we go there? So we just have to be a little bit patient. What are you guys thinking? Maybe later, a brunch crossing as opposed to a morning breakfast crossing. Now there is a crocodile that's waiting for its breakfast or brunch, depending on when these topi decide to cross. There, you can see it over there. Sneaky creature, waiting patiently. And I'd love to know how much the average croc gets to eat during the migration months. And what I'd also be interested in is how many crossings occur outside of the migration. And I think we may have possibly overlooked the fact that animals will still cross the river, therefore still provide the crocodile with meals during the quieter months. Whereas we all kind of just assumed that the crocodiles only eat during the migration. I don't think that is in fact the case. They'll definitely be having the most opportunities and they will eat the most during that period of time, but it's not to say they are going to necessarily be on a hunger strike for the other 8 or 9 months of the year when the migration is not in town. Okay, well, things seems to have calmed down here, so I think what we're going to do is let these topis pluck up their courage. Okay, Seb has spotted a bird. Oh, wonderful. 2 purple grenadiers basking themselves in the morning sunlight. It's the lady on the left with her incredible purple mascara and the male on the right, who is, I must say, far more impressive looking than her, but she is quite cute. Isn't this so sweet? A happy couple basking in the morning sunshine. I wonder if I can try and change the angle a bit for you, Seb, so we can just stay on them. I'm just going to move the vehicle ever so slightly. Go tight and I can just move those leaves out the way. I think. Ooh, maybe not. Sorry, this might be a bit messy, but it's kind of the only way of being able to know that we've got a good spot. I think this is going to work well here. Don't fly away. I wonder if they're on a nest there. Look at how beautiful this is. Morning. He's still yawning, I see. Doesn't look like a nest. It looks like just a little roosting spot for them as they slowly decide to wake up. I know some of you were lucky enough to see these birds with Jamie the other day, but I think that this is one of the best possible visuals. And Francis in Israel, yes indeed. Wow, those colors are amazing. Well spotted, Seb. They're tiny, tiny, tiny little birds. Almost like a waxbill or a finch, to give you something to relate to. Their name, a grenadier, is quite unique. There's not many other grenadiers, I don't think, that you get to see, so it's a unique bird. In South Africa, as far as I'm aware. Wunderbar, wunderbar. Oh, we've got awesome other opportunities here, Seb. Nice and close, these little bee eaters. Now we are getting spoiled rotten. We've got more funky mascaraed birds. Here, these guys have got turquoise mascara. Sadly, the branch that they've decided to perch on is blowing quite a lot, which is making it tricky for Seb to go in for a tight shot, because they just blow out of frame before you know it. It looks like another one may have landed on the branch. No, it was another bird that's landed to the right of it. Please don't ask me what that is, because I'm not too sure. Possibly a warbler of sorts. I'm not entirely sure, though. Hello, Grateful Dad. You'd like to know how tiny are these birds? Well, these little bee eaters, as their name suggests, are very small. I would say they are the same size as a budgerigar, just with a shorter tail. Vajraga meaning budgie. That's a bird that I think most people will know of and can relate to size-wise. Look at the way it's ruffling up its feathers to try and create a nice warm blanket as it defrosts after what was a very cold night last night in the Masai Mara. There it's getting its beak ready for a bit of hunting. And they're incredible hunters. They catch all of their prey on the wing, so they can maneuver incredibly quickly. Almost impossible, I think, to film a sequence of them hunting, unless you are a ninja. Good. Well, we're certainly getting a lot of beauty this morning with regards to the birds. Ryan, you've been waiting a long time to see a bee eater, so I'm glad your patience and perseverance has paid off, because aren't they just so incredible, the little bee eaters? You'll be glad to know there are many, many more types of bee eaters that we get in Africa, and I look forward to being able to show you a few more. My favorite is probably the carmine bee eater. You get the southern and the northern carmine, so the southern carmine will be arriving in and around Djuma soon for the summer months. And the northern carmine bee eater, I'm not sure if we get them here in the Mara, but they do occur here in Kenya, and they're quite a lot different to the southern carmine, but they're both very beautiful. Brent was showing me all the bee eaters he's seen on his intrepid travels, and jeez, there are some fascinating ones that you get in these strange little forests in different African countries. Most wonderful. Well, where we are heading is up onto that hill where you can maybe just make out three kind of antennas. And we're going to be doing a quick battery change for some of our equipment there. And while we continue on that mission, we will be sending you over to Tristan, who has arrived at a wonderful waterhole.
We are indeed. We've made our way down towards Chitwa because, well, Word Telemaster is giving us a bit of a problem. So we've decided we'll come to Chitwa rather than spend our morning around here. Hopefully we'll have some luck with Hosanna, and, well, it's not the worst place to be anyway, because such a beautiful waterhole, and particularly early in the morning, it's full of life. There's the hippos behind me. We've got a beautiful big fish eagle that's sitting right above us. So there's lots happening around here, and there's Egyptian geese and all kinds of other things. But the fish eagle is probably where we'll start with, because this is one of the most beautiful regal birds that we do have in Africa, and of course their call is synonymous with this area. We often hear them with their kind of whooping call, and anybody who has spent time in Africa anywhere near water will know that call very well, and it will bring back fond memories. Now, this fish eagle is part of a pair. They actually should be nesting at around this time, so I wouldn't be surprised if maybe the other one is off building a nest. They generally nest to our west on a big marula tree that overlooks the dam. It's quite far actually from the dam. It's not right against the dam itself, but they generally nest there, and you'll find them going back and forth this time of the year with chicks, and they'll try and grab fish and then take it back to the nest. Kathy from Ohio, yes, the male does sit on the nest. I've seen both male and females going in that direction and sitting and helping with raising of the chicks, and so they'll take food, they'll sit on the nest itself. It's not just the female that does all the work when it comes to these guys. You'll find both of them will help one another, and I suppose if you're in a monogamous relationship, and you have to be like that, you can't just let the female do all of the work, otherwise you're going to find yourself on your own fairly quickly. But no, so they do help each other out, and like I say, lots of helping with food being brought to the nest. You'll find them back and forth all the time. It's really, really interesting to watch them, actually. I remember when I used to work here at Chitwa, I used to spend a lot of time with these fish eagles and watch their behavior, and it was amazing to see some of the stuff that they got up to. They're actually quite a ruthless birds when it comes to catching food. I always thought that their main part of their diet would be fish, but they actually target the Egyptian geese quite regularly. I saw these particular birds going after many an Egyptian goose. Even their young ones, they come down and grab the chicks, and even sometimes the adults get attacked by them, which is quite strange. So they do substitute the diet of fish sometimes with bird, and so those poor Egyptian geese sometimes have a hard time, particularly when there's young ones around. I wouldn't be surprised we're going to start seeing some of those young ones fairly shortly. Now there's also another really beautiful bird that is actually just landed in front of me. Oh, now it's taken off again, but it's one of the village weavers. I believe Byron actually was telling me that the village weavers are building their nest, so we'll go around to check them out just now, because they're in this tree over here and it's against the light completely, so it's not easy for VM to film any of those village weavers, but one had landed in front, so I was hoping we could show that. There's also a water thickney. Now, Debbie, you're asking what happens if a monogamous bird or animal loses its mate. Well, it then goes on the search for another one. So even though it has lost its mate, it's not like it will just stay a loner for the rest of its life. That natural instinct to breed and that overriding sense that they need to continue their bloodline will mean that they'll search out another mate. It'll obviously take a few days for them to realize what's going on, and they then start to look, and it's a search that takes place, but generally they do find. So you see it a lot with steenbok and duiker, and even, like I say, with these birds of prey. Now, VM, on the other side of the dam is another beautiful bird. So that water thickney flew away, but here is a special bird that we don't see very often at all, and there is a spoonbill. Now, for those of you, that might be a new bird on your list. I can't remember the last time we had a spoonbill around, but there is an African spoonbill, and it's got its name because of its spoon-shaped beak. And you'll see it will go along the fringes, and it will use its beak to kind of go from side to side and search out little frogs and any other aquatic animals that it can find, even aquatic insects, fish, and then it grabs them with that spoon-like beak and then swallows them. So that's quite a special bird to see. We do see them in the summer months, and I have seen them quite often here in this particular area, but they're not as common as you would think. And I don't know when the last time we actually saw a spoonbill live was, but really nice to see. They're very easy to identify, big white bird, and like I say, with that spoon-shaped beak, they really can't be confused with too much. Hopefully it'll turn more towards us and we'll actually see a better sort of shape on the beak itself. There we go. You can see it's almost got that flattened end to it, and it's hopefully going to fly across towards where we are. Nope. I think it's going to go the opposite side of the dam, but good job, Vildi, following it through all of that vegetation. That's not a very easy job to do at all. So well done. There it goes. It seems to be leaving the dam itself and going somewhere else. Penny, you're asking which bird I think is the smartest. I think there's probably two that are, well, actually no, one bird that is probably for me one of the smartest that we see here in the Sabi Sands, and that's probably the green-backed heron. Now, the green-backed heron is a bird that we actually do see here at Chitwa, sometimes on this island that's just in front of me over here. We'll try and look and see if I can find one, but they are incredibly intelligent in that they'll use tools in order to be able to catch the food items that they want. And so what you'll find is they generally use insects, and so they'll grab an insect and they put it on the surface of the water, and they wait for fish to then come towards that insect. As the fish come to investigate or to grab that insect, so the green-backed herons will grab those fish. I've seen them also using bread and all kinds of other things that they get from humans. So very intelligent that they've worked out that watching humans feed bread to fish, that they can use bread as well to be able to catch fish of their own. So it really is very interesting. So that's probably for me one of the most clever birds that we have out here. There's also, I suppose, the drongos in the way that they can mimic and they can kind of utilize. Oh, look at that yawn. Aren't those teeth quite impressive? Good morning, Mr. Hippo. Or Miss Hippo, should I say? It's a female hippo that we've got over there, not a male. And so they are, the drongos are very clever in the way that they're able to mimic, and they're able to try and kind of fool things like mongoose and meerkats and even other birds by using alarm calls and various other sounds to be able to get to food sources ahead of them and to make those potential predators drop their food source and then go after it. So they're really clever birds as well. And those are just the birds that occur here. There's also other really insanely intelligent birds that we see in the rest of the world as well. But it is a beautiful morning at Chitwa. I'm really thoroughly enjoying seeing all the different things that we've got here this morning. It seems to just be a kind of absolute abundance of life around the dam. It's such a wonderful place just to spend time, particularly for birding. If you're really into birding, Chitwa Dam was always one of my favorite places to come with birding guests, because you can sit here and while you're sitting, lots of birds are in and out. There's been a few musk swallows that we've seen here also, and I'm going to just try and go around so we can have a look at these weavers as they build their nest, because the hippos are all fairly sedate and calm at the moment. So I want to just try and see if I go around here if our weavers will stay where they are, because they're frantically calling and building and making a big show of it, but the light is so bad from where we were that I want to just try and get around. Also, I'm trying to scan for our very clever little green-backed heron, which I don't see either. It seems to not be visible at the moment, but if you listen, you can hear the noise of these weavers as they go about their business. They really are chatterboxes. They make a lot of noise and they try and sort of flap their wings and build and weave and try and make a big show to the females, so that they can also see that there's these guys busy and building these incredible homes that the female can come and inspect. Now, once they finish building, the female will do an inspection. If she decides that it's not up to scratch, she then breaks it down, and those poor weavers have to start again, and they have to try and then rebuild that nest and try and then do a better job and make sure that the women are happy. So it's a pretty incredible feat that they do, and actually to build those nests is really quite amazing. You can see how they go and they pick up different grasses, and then it's slowly but surely weaved in, and it's intricate to say the least. They build these little bulbs with this little tunnel that comes down. It really is an incredible sort of way that they do things, and the fact that they're able to do it is amazing. And there you can see the sort of wing flapping is all just to attract attention and to display to the females as they go about the mating. You can see some of the females are around. They're far more drab coloration. There we go. You see a female and the male busy. Now the female's inside there actually, so she'll be looking, checking what's going on. If she decides, nope, this is not good, then it's down again. But how cool is this? It's amazing to watch this process. And one of the best parts about being in summer is actually watching the weavers. For me, watching these weavers construct these nests. And as the sort of summer goes on, so they utilize it. Once they've bred in it, then that nest is abandoned, and they don't then nest again until this time next year, where they'll frantically build all of this all over. It really is amazing. And you can actually identify weavers just by their nests themselves. So each weaver has a different way of building, so each species, should I say, not each particular weaver, but each species does have different ways to build nests. So you've got a situation where you'll find village weavers, lesser mast weavers, all have slightly different shapes to their nests, with slightly longer tunnels or different kinds of bulb shapes around the sort of tunnel area. So it's actually a nice thing that you can identify them with as well. Generally with these village weavers, you find that their nests don't have much of a tunnel at all. You can see their nests are pretty flush with the rounded section, and also they generally build over water. You'll find that the mast weavers and lesser mast weavers, while they sometimes will build over water, are happy building over land a lot of the time. There you go, there's a start of a nest as well. Whereas these village weavers is 99.9% of the time over water. And that's how it starts. It just starts as a branch, and he's got to then slowly but surely kind of wrap that branch first and provide the strength and stability, and then from there he can start building it. And isn't it incredible that that's what it starts like? It's just a little branch, and eventually they end up with that intricate, patterned and big nest that they build there. It really is a wonderful thing to see. Danielle, you say such industrious birds. They are, aren't they? And the amazing thing about this is that those nests, even though they are intricate and they really are well built and well designed, it actually takes these birds not very long to do it at all. In fact, I've watched weavers building these nests, and it will take between sort of, I would say, 2 and 5 days, and they have it constructed to what you see there. And you can actually see how quickly they do it, because the grass is still green. If you had a situation where those nests were built over many, many days, if you've ever cut grass and left grass in the sun, you'll see how quickly it browns up. So the fact that they're still green by the time they kind of that shape just gives you an idea of how fast these guys will build these nests. It really is incredible. And the reason why they have to wait for the rain is because they use grass to build their nests. So Joe, you're asking, is the hole on the bottom, how do the eggs stay in? Well, Joe, it's a very clever design. So if you look at that nest there, you'll see that there on the left side of the picture is a rounded bottom section, and then on the right side is a fairly sort of squared off section. Now that right side is the tunnel that goes into the left side where there's a chamber and a rounded padded area where the nest is actually there. So the adults enter through the bottom, go up that chamber from the right hand side over into the left hand side where they'll pad that and they'll lay the eggs, and the chicks will be in that little padded bowl section, and then there's a tube or tunnel that goes out the right, so the adults then exit that way. It also stops the chicks from falling out. There's a slight shelf, so while the chicks are still developing and are unable to fly and all of that, they sit just underneath where that lip is, and so they actually can't then get out and fall out and accidentally fall into the water. The problem for these guys though is because of the amount of noise and chittering and chattering and movement that they have, they often attract predators in the forms of mostly snakes. So you'll find a lot of things like boomslangs and vine snakes that will go into these areas, and they will actively hunt these weavers through the summer months. It's quite common to actually see a snake going in and out of these nests. I think we once saw it around Djuma Dam. I think it's been seen with one of us. I can't remember who it was actually that saw it, but the snakes going into the nest themselves looking for those little chicks that they can then grab. Even black mambas as well, they'll also do it. So it's a tough life, but it's the way things have to go. But how cool is that? Well done. You've got a wonderful nest. Hopefully she likes it too. Amazing, isn't it? Hive of activity all around one little tree that overhangs some water. You can see Serafina, you're asking why they don't take the old nest down or use the old nest. Well, Serafina, the thing is with grass is that grass breaks down very quickly. So you'll know if you ever have had, like I say, mowed a lawn and you've got grass that dries out, or if you've ever walked somewhere where grass has dried and you take that grass, you'll feel it's actually very brittle, so it breaks quite easily. And so what happens with these guys is once they've nested and the grass is dried out over the summer, it's the nest actually starts to break apart quite quickly. As the sort of winter months come and winds pick up, you often find these nests breaking off and falling to the ground. They don't stay on that long, and so by summer, this particular tree you can see here would have had a whole bunch of nests in the summer months. Through winter they all dropped off. These are all fresh nests that have been built over the last few days. None of these nests were here from last year, so all last year's nests have already broken off, fallen into the water, been blown away by wind, and they've just unraveled and become completely disastrous to use. So that actually might be an old one from last year. You can see how rough and ready it is. It's all breaking apart, and so it just won't hold the structure well, and it won't be able to actually hold these weavers for the duration of the summer again. So that's why they reconstruct it. They build fresh new ones, they line it with fresh materials, and they make sure that there's not any insects or anything in there that could potentially damage their little chicks. And so that's why it's a new nest every season. It's also a display thing. It's also a way of getting a mate. Remember, these are not monogamous birds. They're going to have different partners every year, and so it's part of the process of actually establishing themselves and showing the females that they're strong birds that can build, and they've got a great building prowess, and that they can construct an incredible home for this partner. And so that's why they do spend a lot of time rebuilding nests in this area. It's a pretty amazing thing. Imagine having to build a house every year. It must be a really tough thing. And in fact, you might even have to build 2 or 3 houses if she's a little bit on the fussy side. Now, I think what we're going to do is probably leave our weavers and leave Chitwa Dam and try and go and check around and see what else there is around Chitwa. I know Hosana was seen. He was seen at that room all the way in the distance. So the last room that we see at Chitwa, he was seen in that area, and he was apparently seen last night by Brent's brother. So I'm going to try and go and check around and see what there is. In fact, we at one point there's a rock that's just on the edge of the waterhole, and it's got this little orangey coloured sort of branch that sticks up off it, and I thought it was Hosana sitting on top of the rock. So you can see there, that's what I thought was Hosana, but it's actually just a branch and sort of material that's washed up. But I got all excited at first because I thought maybe our leopard was on a rock. Right, while I go and check around and see if I can find Hosana's tracks anywhere or see where he's ended up going, I believe Jamie Patterson is driving around the Mara as well, and I wonder if she's had any luck with her cheetah.
So, an update from our side. We've been to where Imani was, yesterday afternoon with her full belly from a Thompson's gazelle baby. And unless she's developed a sudden ability to massacre and consume 2 full wildebeest, I would say that it's safe to assume the lions or the hyenas have been through. We found 2 carcasses, one that has been stripped clean, the other that's busy being devoured by vultures. And so I suspect our sweet cheetah will have gone walkabout away from the lions or away from the hyenas, and somewhere where she could be, why is that car stopped? Somewhere where she could be secret and safe. Now what I'm doing is I'm driving loops around the area where we followed her around yesterday. Typically, it's a difficult one. Typically, she wouldn't move far, but female cheetah do occasionally get it into their mind to go for a complete wander off into the distance. It's very, very bright and very sunny now. But they do often disappear off. They have such enormous home ranges so as to be considered almost essentially nomadic. They travel enormous distances, but they sort of have temporary home ranges they spend time in. I'm just looking to see if that car is moving off. So they haven't found her. She could so easily be on the other side of this river. Doo-doo-doo. And sometimes it helps just to sit and stop and look and listen. Nicholas, you say, speaking of large territories, how big is this park? Combined where we are, which is the Mara National Reserve, combined with the Triangle, which is where we also drive, it's 160,000 hectares of traverse area. I would love to convert that into square miles, or what's the other thing? Begins with an A? Acres, thank you. Thank you very much, Joey. In a moment. I'd love to convert it for you, but I can't off the top of my head. I will have to get a calculator out and do it properly. It is absolutely massive, which means that we do cover tremendous distances. I've traveled, according to my odometer, that was on 370 when I left. It's now on 570. I've done 200 Ks in the last 2 days. Since Friday, I've done 200 kilometers odd, which is quite a lot, actually, when you think about it. And most of that's just been driving around here. Some of it was getting here, but most of it was here.